Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome to another episode of Sree's Global COVID-19 Show. My name is Sree Sreenivasan, and today we have a very special episode, a milestone episode, 275. And today the topic is digital body language, how to build trust and connection no matter the distance. Is there a more timely topic as we live and try to survive and thrive in this digital and hybrid world? Our guest is Erica Dhawan, author of Digital Body Language, and she will share research and tips from her new book on how to thrive in a world of remote and hybrid work and school. We want everyone to check out ericadhawan.com, and she's on Twitter at Erica Dhawan. She is the author of the Get Big Things Done book, and she just today hit the Wall Street Journal #3 position on the best bestseller list. So please do check out her book, Digital Body Language. You will meet her in just a minute. Share your questions for what is happening in the world of digital and hybrid and remote work, and also how we get through and continue to get out of this pandemic and the situation we're in. Hi, everyone. I'm Sree. Thank you so much for being here. Very grateful to all of you for being such great supporters of this show. We are now in weekly mode, but we were on the air every single day for the first 250 days of the pandemic. In our first 250 episodes in 250 days, we had more than 1 million viewers, 450 plus guests from 73 cities and 20 countries, including the chief scientist of the World Health Organization. We are in partnership with Scroll.in and Scroll Global, and we're able to do this only because of our awesome producers, Rose Horowitz at Rose Horowitz 31 on Twitter. She'll be live tweeting, and Vandana Menon, Vandana_Menon. Please check out her work and the work of both of them and follow them on Twitter. And this show, along with all the things that I do nowadays, is under the umbrella of Digimentors. We do talk shows like this, we do summits, webinars, hybrid conferences, and if you are interested in any of that, please drop us a note. Check out our website, digimentors.group. You can always email me, sree@sree.net, if you'd like to talk about where some of the programs you might be interested in doing. Speaking of programs, this weekend is very busy around here because of Social Media Weekend. And this is Friday night and all day Saturday, New York time. And this is an online social media conference. It's fully online, and you can watch live or up to 6 months later. And we have great guests like Brian Stelter of CNN, Darlene Slaughter of the March of Dimes, Wade Davis of Netflix, Sarah Evans of Sarah Evans Strategy. We have Sona Patel, who is the new director of community for all of the New York Times, and 20 other awesome guests. And you can find out all the details at smwknd.com, smwknd.com. Please take a look and please join us at smwknd.com. So thank you very much, everybody, for being here. We're live right now on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, and on LinkedIn. Please tell us where you're watching from and what questions do you have for our expert on how to survive and thrive in this digital, hybrid, remote world. We want to hear from you. And please tag your friends. They can watch live or later, and they can ask questions as well. So anyone who you know would benefit from hearing about this topic, please ask them to join us. We'd love to have them here with us. So with that, let me tell you all about our guest, Erica Dhawan. She is the author of Digital Body Language, How to Build Trust and Connection No Matter the Distance. And she is absolutely awesome. She has so many great credentials about the work she has done. She has been named one of the top 20 leading management experts by Global Guru. She's been known as the Oprah of management ideas by Thinkers 50, and she was named the #1 female keynote speaker of 2020. #1 female keynote speaker. Isn't that awesome? So I hope you're all ready to enjoy, learn, work together as we together meet Erica. So let's say hello. Hi.
Hello, Sree. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, thank you for being here. My first question to all our guests, how are you? Where are you? And how has your family handled the pandemic?
So, how am I? I'm doing great today. It's been an exciting week. My new book, Digital Body Language, just came out a week ago. Where am I? I am in New York City in a 5x7 room where I work all day long while also, managing and being very grateful for a wonderful family. I have two kids under 3 years old. I had my second child, my son, 5 weeks before the pandemic last year. And the one thing I'm really grateful for is if there was any time to be in quarantine, it's when you have a newborn because you're already quarantined anyway. So I am filled with gratitude.
That is great to hear that you're doing well, and congrats on 3 big achievements in 3 years, right? You two kids and a book.
Just constantly birthing things. It's the creative flow, right?
Yes, that is awesome. So let's hear about this book. Tell us what people will learn in it and give us some highlights. We want everyone to check out ericadhawan.com so that they can get the links to buy the book. But of course, it's available online everywhere. And you also just launched your India edition too.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's right. Maybe I'll start with why I wrote this book and then what it's all about. I grew up as a shy, introverted Indian girl in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. My parents were Indian immigrants, which meant at home we spoke Hindi. And so when I went to school, I had accented English. And Sree, I really struggled to find my voice. I was shy and introverted. One of the things I was able to develop, though, was an ability to identify and decipher other people's body language. I would watch the popular girls with their heads high, the cool kids slouching during school assemblies. And it helped me really understand as a child that it's truly not what we say, it's how we say it. Fast forward, in 30 years, I became a communication and collaboration expert. But a few years ago, I kept realizing that my clients were asking the same questions. Questions like, why is there so much misunderstanding at work? How do we better connect across different ages and working styles? And what I realized was that there was no body of our language in a digital world that we understood. There was no rule book for reading the cues of the body of our digital language. And I realized that just like I was an immigrant to traditional body language as a kid, today we are all immigrants to the world of digital body language. That's why I wrote the book. And the book is really a digital elements of style guide, helping you understand the signals you're sending, even if you don't intend to, how to create cultures of clarity with any group, whether a community group, a workplace, a school setting, and most importantly, how to also avoid digital bias so that you are truly creating cultures of inclusion no matter the distance.
Well, this is a perfect time for this book and a perfect opportunity for all of us to learn together. Pradnya is watching and she says she's been enjoying Erica's posts on LinkedIn. So everyone should check you out on LinkedIn as well. Rajni is saying good evening and greetings from Toronto. And Jonathan Borstein is watching from the East Village. He says he's looking forward to tonight's program as well as social media weekend this weekend. And not to mention the launch of his new Facebook page, A Flaneur in New York. And you should know he's watched all 275 episodes of this show. I haven't, even though I've been here every day. I've not surely paid as much attention as he has. And also, by the way, Pradnya is tagging all her friends who she thinks will benefit from this. So everyone should do this. Just tag a friend right now and they can watch this and enjoy and learn as well. And Stefan says, wonderful to be listening in from Ramsey, New Jersey. Erica's book is a must read. I was just listening to a great discussion with Dory Clark just the other day. Such great insight, digital body language, fascinating topic. So you have some fans here.
I couldn't be more grateful. Sree, one thing that might be cool is if we have everyone share a digital body language pet peeve in the comments as well. What's one challenge you're having? And hopefully today I can help solve, or we can do a little group digital therapy.
So that's a wonderful idea. And Jay says hello from Maryland. And Neil Parekh, who's working very hard on Social Media Weekend right now, is watching from Springfield, Virginia. So let's even just talk about, as I'm interviewing you here, what is my body language? What can I fix? What are you doing right now that is helping you connect with the audience that others may not be doing? This is a setting that is not unlike what a lot of people are in. They may not be broadcasting to thousands of people at the same time, but they're certainly in these boxes, and that's the life we've been living so far.
Yeah. Well, the first thing I think is that digital body language is much more than how you show up on a video screen. It's about how you make others feel in a modern marketplace. And digital body language are the cues and signals that extend in many different ways. It's the punctuation we use in emails, our response times, the way we might greet or sign off an email, and it's also even how we show up on a video screen. But if we're going to talk specifically about how do we create that connection, especially on video, there are a few things that I think are important. The first thing is to truly engage, especially in a virtual setting, is number one, we have to think less like office meeting hosts and more like TV show hosts. And Sree, you do an amazing job with this, where we are actually really drawing in and engaging listeners and audience members to be part of the conversation entirely. One of the best parts of that is the chat. I think that as you're doing, the chat should be an interactive experience entirely through discussions. Another thing that's really practical is just looking into the camera when you're presenting. Even though you can't see everyone's body language, they feel a stronger connection to you, and research shows that. And last but not least, I think it's simply powerful to ask thoughtful questions. We've all been in those meetings where we start talking about the weather, and I'm a big fan of saying, those questions are lame. Ask meaningful questions. Ask what's meaningful to you today. What are you working on? What's challenging for you? And good digital body language is showing that you value them, you value their time, you care about how they can contribute, and you show it by doing. So those are a few lessons for me.
Love them. And many of these things are things I preach as well. One of the things we always say is look at that green light or red light that you have. It's not instinctive, right? As I'm talking to you, I should be looking down, but I'm looking up here because that's where the camera is, and it's irritating in some ways. Let's talk about some of the pet peeves that people will start putting in here. There's one here already. Neil says cameras turned off in Zoom and other calls. What is your attitude about that?
My attitude has changed. Maybe 14 months ago, I gave some more grace. I would say in today's world, video calls are the norm, not the exception. My general rule of thumb here is that it is the job of the meeting host to set expectations. Remember, what was implicit in traditional body language must be explicit in digital body language. If you want people on video, put it in the meeting calendar invite. We'd like everyone on video. If you can't join on video, let us know beforehand. Or say, we'd like everyone on video for the first 10 minutes, and then I'm going to screen share, so we don't need everyone on video for the rest of the time. But even carving out the intentionality of when video truly matters versus when it doesn't can go a long way. Make it explicit, and you'll see people will change. They just right now have an opt-in instead of an opt-out.
Right. And it's certainly changed the way we work and all of that. So let's understand also the book itself. You must have been working on a slightly different version before the pandemic, or how did that come about?
Sree, I really dreamt about this book and started writing it in 2016, 5 years ago. And it's kind of an emotional day because today was the day we learned we hit the Wall Street Journal bestseller list.
Number three.
I kept at number 3. I kept feeling and seeing these challenges, these misunderstandings in the workplace. I was experiencing in my own life, text message exchanges going wrong, email exchanges confusing, getting messages from a client saying, thanks for your patience, and not knowing if that meant they were really grateful I was patient. They didn't want to work with me anymore. They were trying to keep me distracted from what was really going on. And in many ways, I felt like we really needed a rule book for the body of our language in a digital world. I wanted to learn. I was running a business virtually as well, and I wanted to learn how to be able to connect effectively on the screen, on the phone, and beyond. And, and that's when I really started using the term digital body language. I pitched it to publishers. Every publisher said, this is too niche. A digital communication book, sorry. And then, luckily I had my amazing editor, Tim Bartlett, who said, I think the world needs a new body language book. So luckily, it got sold. At first, they said there's no way the title can be digital body language. That's too niche. I still wrote the book. I finished it last year before the pandemic started. They said, absolutely, this now needs to be digital body language. I then built in an entirely new set of research during last year with the integration of studies of video calls and how digital body language has changed. And today it's here. And I'm just so grateful that it's impacting people around the world.
And so helpful at this time. So folks, tell us where you're watching from, and she would like to know your digital body language pet peeves. So anything that affects how you communicate, not just in video, but also how people are using email and everything else. I mean, I keep saying in a TikTok world, email still matters. And I can remember a moment where I changed my email signature sign off. And that was after 9/11. And what happened is I got on email maybe 92, 93 and was using, I would always sign it off Cheers Sree, unless it was a very formal thing. I would just always say Cheers Sree. And 9/11 happened. And I remember I felt like I couldn't write Cheers, and I never did again. Obviously things, the world changed and things went back to, we forgot what happened 9/11 and everything else. But I just felt like that's how seriously I took my digital body language. And I'll never forget that. Here is a comment from Stefan, who says, I used to roll my eyes so much more before live streaming came along when listening to some conversations. Boy, I've learned to control that in my new digital live life.
Yeah. I mean, it's not natural for us to see our own video on the screen while we're trying to engage with others. The Stanford study on Zoom fatigue also showed that women are feeling higher levels of Zoom fatigue because of just a need to look pretty and look a certain way online as well, and the pressure around that. And so I think that in many ways, our digital body language is impacting our body language altogether, because we can look down at ourselves. We can try to make sure to fix things or to try to be a certain way that we normally wouldn't in a room. And I think one thing I always recommend is just to minimize your own video camera. Don't look at yourself, and authentically focus on engaging with others.
You brought up an important point about women. In so many ways, women feel extra pressure and have not been treated equally during the pandemic. But the simple thing where men, no matter what shape they're in, their face, their hair, jump on video calls very easily. Women have, because of pressure from others, but also from themselves, want to put on their face and have their hair and lighting and everything, be in a place, as someone told me, just for kind of minimum level standards that, men don't think about. And so that's been so unfair. And something that I think, especially when you're doing early morning calls or late night calls and they're on video, because I remember that early criticism of the video phone, video calling is not new, right? And we saw it in the 1964 World's Fair and even before that. And there was a reason we didn't do video calls and we didn't do surprise FaceTime and things like that, because people weren't ready to be on camera necessarily. And now it's all that video-centric life that we lead.
Absolutely. It is requiring us all to think differently about it. I'm a big fan of really using this moment, now that we're 15 months into the pandemic, as a reset. When do we really need video and when don't we? There's high levels of fatigue. And so really knowing when to just pick up the phone or when to bring back, audio only Fridays in your organization or whatever it may be.
I like that. Audio only Fridays.
Yeah, it's like casual. It's like the new casual Fridays. It is really powerful. The other thing that I found in my book, I have a chapter on gender, one on generations, and one on culture, is across genders, there is a more masculine tone of digital body language and a more feminine tone. And similar to up-talking and voice pitch, some of the dynamics that cause gender bias in traditional body language, One study actually showed that there are digital body language biases across genders. In fact, when a younger woman in the workplace used multiple emojis compared to a man at any rank level in that same organization, the woman was more likely to be seen as incompetent. The man was more likely to be seen as casual or friendly. So, something that is important. I'm a big fan of being ourselves, throwing in exclamations or emojis, but at the same time, really what is important is to understand that sometimes we do make judgments. Another study looked at exclamation points. When a woman used an exclamation point, multiple exclamation points, such as "here we go" with multiple exclamation points in a text, others would be likely to interpret it as excitement. When a man used it, "here we go" with multiple exclamations, it tended to signal urgency. So that's just another example of the fact that, similar to the way we communicate in body language, we have actually transferred that in digital body language. And a lot of the book talks about how do you create a standard, not only for equality, for inclusion, but also to get the best ideas out of everyone.
Awesome. I'm so glad that we're talking tonight and that we're learning so much from Erica Dhawan. You can see she's the author of Digital Body Language. She's on Twitter at Erica Dhawan. Please follow her and also follow her on LinkedIn. We already got a shout out to the quality of her LinkedIn post, so please do check that out. Let's see some of the comments coming in here. Apollo's watching from Montclair, New Jersey, and our LinkedIn user tells us that he Face didn't make it here, but looking forward to reading this book. Sold out everywhere. And some more comments. Yasraj is watching from Delhi. Jawad says, watching from India, I'm training as a digital dispute resolution specialist. And the book is just what the doctor ordered. Wow. Digital dispute resolution specialist. All of you are hearing it, I presume, for the first time.
We have a whole new set of jobs coming out of the pandemic.
This is a textbook for that job.
Yes.
And here people are saying.
And that's something I never imagined, Sree. I mean, I wrote this book primarily at the beginning for the office worker that managed global virtual teams. But today, I have had physicians email me that have been doing telehealth and said, your book has transformed how I engaged. Professors that said, oh, now I know how to value my students in a way where they feel respected. I think that this can transcend. I even have dating stories of, even simple things that we might want to be conscious of when we're sending signals to others. And in many ways, I think this is the moment, just like we spent years mastering traditional body language, to up our game in digital body language.
We had an episode several months ago with a digital dating coach, and she talked us through some of the things that you should be doing when you're going on video dates because people couldn't go to in-person dates. Jay's watching from Maryland. We have so many other folks tuning in and asking questions. Abhibhushan says hello. Neil says, I know women face different pressures on camera, but I make it a point to look my best for every online/video meeting. And I can tell you he does. Supriyam says hello. A LinkedIn user asks, Erica, how can we best assess our digital communication skills? What's the most efficient way to know what we need to improve?
I think one of the first things to do to start is to think about how you are resonating with others. And in my book, I talk about 4 laws of digital body language, 4 things that you can ask yourself and ask others that you work with, related to creating cultures of clarity, understanding, respect, and empathy. The first law is what I call valuing visibly. Now, prior to the pandemic, so many of the ways that we valued others was body language, eye contact. In a digital world, valuing others visibly is valuing their time, their inboxes, and their schedules. So how are you valuing people's time? Making sure that you're not sending and setting up 60-minute meetings that could be 25-minute meetings, not sending multiple reply all emails when you really could just pick up the phone and answer it in 5 minutes. The second law is what I call communicate carefully. And this is really all about understanding that reading messages carefully is the new listening, and writing clearly is the new empathy. Think before you type, slow down, and really be thoughtful in your messages. The third law is what I call collaborate confidently. And this is all about making sure that others feel aligned and identified. They know what to do next and how you connect with them. Many times we may get on that call, we may have a discussion, and then we may leave not knowing exactly what happened or what everyone is doing next. I like to say collaborating competently is not just saying what you'll do, but doing what you'll say. A quick tip here is at the end of meetings where you're trying to build a good repertoire, send a quick email recap within 30 minutes of the meeting. It's like the new virtual handshake. It creates that sense of connection. And fourth is trust totally, which is about assuming the best intent and creating virtual water cooler moments. Remember, give others the benefit of the doubt, even if they send confusing messages, and give others grace. They may be typing fast, they may be rushing. And so asking yourself these 4 questions, am I valuing visibly? Am I communicating carefully? Am I collaborating confidently? And am I building that culture of trust totally? Are simple ways to assess yourself. And don't worry, I have an actual assessment in the book of those for you.
So there's an assessment that people can use for sure. Just check out ericadhawan.com and follow her on Twitter, and the book is available everywhere. Vandana, one of our producers watching from Hyderabad in India, says, I'm under the millennial curse. I'm always ending up using exclamation points in emails and texts.
You know, one of the things that I discovered in my research was, in many ways, we often think in generations, whether it's baby boomers, Gen X, millennials. And what I found in my research is that, as we all know, millennials are not all the same. Baby boomers are not all the same. But what was really unique is there were categories of individuals. There were what I'll call digital body language natives, those that really grew up with the norms of emojis and exclamations and GIFs. And then on the other end of the spectrum are who I call digital body language adapters. These are the people that had to learn digital communication in the workplace. They didn't grow up with PCs in their home. And in the middle are often what I'll call digital chameleons. They're translators on both sides. And what I think is helpful is understanding, where do you span across that spectrum? I hear natives that will send an email to an adapter and with some thoughtful questions. And then the adapter will say, let's get on the phone to discuss. And the native will say, why don't you just answer my questions in the email so I can get back to work? And then the adapter will say, why don't you just pick up the phone so I can get back to work? And it just goes to show that we are not all the same. Some hate out of the blue phone calls. Some will never check a voicemail. Some love emojis and some hate them. And in the book, I talk about how you can actually understand your own style, but then be clear in how you communicate with others, because it's not just about how you like to connect, it's connecting with those different from you.
Yeah, that's great advice, folks. I'm learning so much, and I know you will too. When you pick up digital body language, please do check out the book and check out her website. Jawad asks, how do we establish digital empathy?
When it comes to empathy in today's age, I think so much, and maybe we'll ask everyone to go into the chat and share, how do you see empathy on video calls and emails and conference calls and chat today? Empathy is all about stepping in the shoes of others while remaining in your own shoes. And let's be honest, it's not really possible to step into the shoes of another when you can't really see that body language, when it's much harder to do this. When we send a message off in the ether, we have no idea whether someone is on the verge of tears or extremely excited. And if we saw their body language, we would have the empathy to adjust or pivot or maybe mirror them. Now we'll just blast off an email and have no idea. I like to say, when it comes to empathy today, a lot of it is around, number one, respecting people's time, not sending 3 reply all emails when you could send 1 thoughtful one, valuing people's schedules, simply starting meetings off with things like, here's what success looks like at the end of the meeting. Here's how I'd like to engage all of you. Here's why you were all invited to this meeting. And if we all stay present, I will end the meeting 10 minutes early. Those are just examples of actually practical ways of showing empathy in our modern world.
So many great tips here. One that I know I'll be using is audio only Fridays.
Oh, yeah.
There are lots of, and it's really resonating with folks. Let's take a look. Budan says, what could be the best way to deal with trolls?
Well, I think there's trolls. I think it depends on the channel. There's different types of trolls and different types of channels. I happened to write a viral article that came out last week, and I definitely had a fair share of trolls. I think at the end of the day, the way that we read others' digital body language is based on two questions we're always answering. The first is, who has more or less power? And second is, how much do we trust each other? Now, likely a troll has little power and little trust with you. So just let it go. But if you're in a situation where you're getting, bullying messages from someone who has more power and there's a trusted relationship, that's where it's always important. I like to say, pick up the phone, switch the medium. If it's a relationship where you have less power, but maybe high trust, this is also another one where standing up for yourself, maybe following up to get to that clarity can be important. I have a whole section of the book that talks about how to deal with potentially passive aggressive messages that may seem nice, but actually might seem passive aggressive, whether it's bumping this to the top of your inbox or going forward, as we previously discussed. And my general rule of thumb here is that we have to not get emotionally hijacked, stay in the place of reason, and simply know when not to respond and when to just pick up the phone.
Got it. Great advice. Aparna says, empathy and care for me on Zoom includes keeping the chat active in just recognizing people speaking, contributing, or adding to the chat. One of the things that makes this show and the other shows that we do, we have the New York Times read along, where we read the New York Times out loud. We've been doing that for 5.5 years. Neil's the executive producer of that show. We call it a digital producer, a digital wingman, wingwoman who annotates the conversation. So as we're speaking, the links we're talking about, the articles we're talking about, putting that in there just makes it more useful than just talking. And that's why I love this format compared to Zoom, where the boxes are all the same size and you can't really highlight things as you're seeing here. And that makes a difference. Budan says, thanks for your answer about those trolls. And Vandana and Stefan had a good conversation about Clubhouse. Stefan says, I think Clubhouse is becoming more popular for many who are exhausted from live video and being in front of the camera so much. And we'll be discussing Clubhouse at Social Media Weekend. And Aparna says, and wonder if that's why Clubhouse has felt so compelling. Oral psychodynamics as well as, so that's one of the things is that people are thinking about as well. So folks, we just have about 15-20 minutes left with Erica, who is the author of this brand new book that just came out and just hit the Wall Street Journal #3 bestseller list. It's called Digital Body Language: How to Build Trust and Connection No Matter the Distance. And we know you will enjoy the book. Check out ericadhawan.com and also follow her on Twitter at Erica Dhawan and follow her on LinkedIn. And when you connect on LinkedIn, tell her you listened to her on the show. And we already mentioned that we have Social Media Weekend coming up, where we'll be talking about many of these topics and these issues. We have fabulous guests from CNN and Netflix and the March of Dimes and Stop Online Violence Against Women. And you can NPR, you can find all of this at smwknd.com to see the entire list of speakers. It's Friday night and Saturday morning, all day Saturday Eastern time. You can use the code SREE20, SREE20, to get 20% off the price of the tickets. So let's bring back Erica and ask you, how did you put the book together and what did you do to promote it and be so successful in the book's body language that it has reached so many people?
In many ways, I think that doing a virtual book launch has been so amazing in a way that I never imagined. And going back to some of the comments that were shared earlier, that I want to mention, some of the folks mentioning how great it is to share in the comments and have a conversation on this show that you curate, Sree. I think one of the things that our digital body language has shown us is how much more inclusive we can be online than perhaps we ever were face-to-face. There are so many traditional body language biases face-to-face. We are more biased and listen to people in the room versus those on screens or on the phone. But when we are all in this virtual format, I've heard introverts that say, I finally have a voice because I don't have to fight for airtime. I can enter in the chat. I can use a virtual whiteboard. I can not focus on my body language on Clubhouse. And, there are so many individuals, those where English is not their first language, that are talking about the power of closed captioning tools on virtual platforms and how it's transforming how they engage. And so in a similar way, the way that I'm so excited about the geographic inclusivity of the way that we work digitally, I sort of channeled that into the book. I've been able to do sessions just today. I think I've done 6 sessions with groups around the world. I started in the morning with a group in Ireland. Then I went to another group, an Insights Association, with attendees all across the United States. Then I did an interview in London. Then I was on Twitter with community members around the world. And now I'm with you, Sree. And it just goes to show how many more people I've been able to reach with a virtual launch. So I think first, the way that I've been able to bring this book into the world has been perfect for the theme of this book. The second thing that I did was I really focused in designing the book on asking people their toughest questions around digital body language, their greatest pain points. I pulled stories from people around the world. I'll never forget some of them. One client said that he sent a message to his boss saying, "Do you want to speak Wednesday or Thursday?" And his boss responded, "Yes." And I talked a lot about that story, but I also would post it in my LinkedIn and Twitter posts. And one of them on LinkedIn went viral. Everyone said, "I've been there too. I've had that story." And we really need to get better at this together. And so in many ways, this book is not my book, it's our book. It's a collection of stories and insights that have come from people around the world. And I am just so grateful that I've been able to launch it in a fully digital way as well.
And at a time when there's so much interest in all things digital, and it's changed everything in so many different ways, and it's absolutely fascinating. Neil says that's a long list of appearances for one day, and so I hope this is your last, and you get some rest after.
The best part is I've worn flip-flops the entire time. I'm not on 6 planes all day. Yeah. It's really amazing how we are able to engage together, but it's about how we use digital body language carefully and thoughtfully, which you so wonderfully show on your show, Sree.
Thank you. Let's talk about the hybrid world that we're getting into. What are some body language things that you think about that are digital and hybrid? I know when I host an event, when I'm, say, teaching a class, and there are people physically present, and then there's an online component, talking to both is really important. Don't ignore the online component. Don't ignore the in-person component. So give us some tips about that hybrid work.
Yeah. When it comes to hybrid work, we have to create a different sense of equality. I recommend simple things like not just having a live office host of a meeting, have a remote host too, and have them co-facilitate the dialogue. Second, use the power and rotate different parts of the agenda for both. So we're switching that visual bias that we often have where we tend to listen to people that we can see visually. The second thing is keep the power of the chat tool, which has been so amazing, as we all know. That could be remote attendees sharing in the chat and then having a screen share in a live setting. It could also be simple things like making sure that small groups, if there's breakout groups, you can actually mix and match breakout groups where it's randomized using a video call format where small groups can come together, those not just in the room, but 2 people in the room, 2 people virtually in different parts of the room. And the third thing is for remote attendees, make sure the camera is pointing to the attendees in the room so that they can see at least some of the body language of people in the room. I've seen remote attendees try to present to people in a boardroom together and they're seeing like the wall because no one thought and had the empathy for them. So those are just some examples, again, that I hope we can be more conscious of because we all know what it's like to be the other now, the one not in the room.
By the way, everyone, check out the live tweets coming from Rose Horowitz. She's at Rose Horowitz 31, and she's tagging Erica, of course, as she is talking about the book and this conversation. So we only have a few more minutes. Here is Lisa Shallett, who says that such thoughtful, actionable advice. Thank you. And Lisa is just awesome. So I'm glad that she is joining us. Hi, Lisa. Thank you for being here. And really appreciate you being.
It's dynamite, the best. Great innovator.
She really is. All right. So as we look forward to the hopefully the pandemic is ending. I mean, this is the hard part, right? In a show like this, we're talking to Americans where everything is so optimistic, whereas in India and other parts of the world, many other parts of the world, things are so pessimistic and so horrible. How do you suggest we share and talk on Facebook, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, when we know we have a global audience and we know, X percentage is in such dire straits and the other is feeling so good? Talk about that, please. And even, of course, within America, we've had 550,000 plus people die. So there is a lot of pain here too. So what is some strategies about how to communicate?
Yeah, we are facing a collective trauma, and some people are doing really well and some people aren't doing so well. I've had an amazing day and week, living with good health in New York. And my uncle is in India, and him and his wife have had COVID and they're recovering from it. And so we not only have our own challenges, but loved ones that are in different parts of the world. I think it really is about taking the time to do what you did at the beginning of this show, Sree. You asked me, how are you? You didn't assume. You didn't jump right in. You gave me some space to reset, to engage, to share. And there are simple ways that we can do that in a virtual format. It could be short and quick. It could be, let's, do a one-word check-in, or let's have everyone share a win in the week or a challenge of the week so that we can show gratitude, but also be empathetic to challenges. It could be a simple, virtual office hours. I like to call them virtual water cooler moments, where people come together almost to co-work, but also to chit-chat and talk about things on their mind. It could also be simply creating shared spaces to ask for help. Again, I think right now, it's not easy to ask for help, especially in a digital world. You want to be sending something where you have all the answers, where you need something to get done, and it can feel transactional. But I think that using the power of video, using the power of these creative chats where people can join from anywhere, whether it's clubhouses where you have people from around the world helping us bridge that empathy gap, or groups of people with those that are 22 to those that are 72 having conversations. I think this is the moment we can bridge the empathy gap by sharing stories with one another, using these digital tools, whichever one fits you, whether it's LinkedIn to TikTok. And when we do that together, we will grow and get better. And I think that's really what I feel in my heart. And you modeled it from the beginning of the show.
Well, thank you. Neil says this was a great show. Lots of important insights. I completely agree. So, you won't have time to join us tomorrow because you're so busy, but tell people who are going into their first online conference tomorrow for Social Media Weekend, or just generally, what advice you have for them in terms of how to connect and how to communicate to folks. And I'll just remind people what some of the speakers and things we have doing. So how do you seek out people you want to connect to? Those kinds of things that you do in a regular conference, how do you do that online?
So we all know the power and magic of bumping into someone in a conference and creating that connection and them becoming a lifelong friend. In today's digital world, that's much harder, but there are ways that actually you can even strengthen and build new connections virtually. For example, as you go into the conference tomorrow, be thoughtful of how you not only introduce yourself, what you do, what you care about, but ask others in the chat what they care about, what they're passionate about. When there are conversations, engage in the conversation. The way that you can build true, authentic connections, especially in a digital world, is through shared affinity, shared interests. It's not going to be because of a title or a brand. And last but not least, just like I said, that a quick email recap is like the new virtual handshake. For anyone that you really want to build a connection with, start in the conference tomorrow, but make sure you follow up in a way where you not only share, let's catch up on a chat, but you maybe offer them something. Maybe you have a podcast and you'd love to interview them. Maybe, you're working on a book and you want to share some research with them that they might find valuable. Simple ways of showing value first can really transform how others engage with you.
That is such great advice. Apollo says, thanks for the awesome show. And Jonathan, who's watched 275 episodes, says, great show, lots of information, buying the book. So there we go. And we should tell people the This is, I think, a galley. The final color is more orange. So
it's more beautiful.
Yeah,
I'm out of them because I've shipped them to everyone.
Professor Kathy Joshi, who was on our show talking about white supremacists and white nationalism, is saying great show and so interesting. So great to have her feedback, and just really appreciate everyone's comments here. And of course, Erica, thank you so much for being here. We're going to show just on the screen a little bit the background of the book and from your website. So we're just going to put that on the air right now. And there we go. And you can get it at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, IndieBound, everywhere you get your books. And I want to say you've got a blurb from one of my favorite people in the world, Daniel Pink, who says right on the book jacket, he calls it, if you'll go, we'll just go to the top there, and it says an indispensable guide to a business world turned upside down by video calls, group texts, and remote work. So that's an incredible testimonial from Dan Pink, who really knows how to write books that are bestsellers and just so helpful to people. So yeah, he's one of my heroes. So I'm so glad that he recognized your work. And Jawad says, definitely buying the book. Thanks. It was a great talk. And so I'm so glad to hear that. One thing that I want to do is want to invite you after a few weeks when the book tour and everything kind of slows down. And if you are willing to get up on a Sunday morning, to have you read the New York Times with us for the New York Times read along, which I think will be lots of fun. And that's a whole different audience. And I know they will enjoy meeting you. I'll just remind folks that this Sunday, the New York Times read along is with Barry Meyer, who is a longtime Pulitzer Prize winning New York Times and Wall Street Journal journalist. And his book is called Spook, The Trump Dossier, Black Cube, and the Rise of Private Spies. And Neil Parks is going to be hosting because I'll be recovering from Social Media Weekend, and it's my twin's 18th birthday. And Neil, who will still be tired from Social Media Weekend, is going to be hosting along with our other producers. So everyone, please do join us this Sunday. And I think we got a yes from Erica about being a guest on the New York Times Read Along one Sunday in the weeks ahead. So with that, we will let you go. Just give us one more time, what will people learn from the book, and where can people get it? Where can they learn more about you?
You will learn how to be thoughtful instead of hasty in your messages. You will learn how to stand out and get noticed, but also show empathy and respect. And you can find digital body language anywhere, Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, indie stores, support small businesses. And it's available everywhere, including India, the US, UK, Australia. So I hope that you'll check it out. Tag me on your posts of the book, your insights, and can't wait to continue the conversation. Thank you so much, Sree.
Thank you. We'll let you go, Erica. Thank you very much. Good night. Get some rest and good luck. And congrats. Number 3 on the Wall Street Journal bestseller list. Let's get it going higher too. Thanks. Wasn't she awesome? I learned so much, and I know you did too. So please check out Erica's website and her Twitter feed and her LinkedIn at Erica Dhawan. This Sunday, don't forget, we have She's on Call, our fabulous show that we produce with Dr. Sujana Chandrasekhar and Marina Kurian. The topic is all things COVID with Anna Felice Ambrose and Elizabeth Parfit, who are doctors who are going to update us on everything from the vaccine to reopening and what we need to know. And don't forget, Social Media Weekend is this weekend, Friday night and all day Saturday in New York time, but you can watch it later, smwknd.com, and you can see we have an amazing lineup of all-star speakers, more than 25 speakers. And if you use the code SREE20, 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 you can get 20% off your ticket price. Please join us, and you can watch it all later if you don't want to be stuck inside watching a conference. So thanks very much, everybody, and good luck, and thank you.